Sometimes the best way to get a handle on the huge story of a nation isn't by cracking open a textbook. It's by looking at the life of a single family. Today, we're going to see how one family's journey is, in so many ways, the story of America itself.
This line from our source material, it just nails it, right? What does it actually take to build a nation? Well, it takes people willing to build a family, forge a community, and literally carve out a life from scratch. It takes foundational figures, and today we're going to meet two of them. All right, so our story kicks off with a man named Burgess Metcalf, who was born way back in 1741. Now, you gotta remember, he wasn't born out in the wilderness. He was born in Medway, which was part of the very established Massachusetts Bay Colony. But his life, well, it wasn't going to stay in that settled world for very long. His journey was going to take him right to the edge of the American frontier.
So let's trace his early steps. He's born in 1741, but the real pivot point comes when he's just a 9-year-old kid. His entire family packs everything up and moves north to Keene, New Hampshire. And this wasn't just, getting a new house. This was a leap into the unknown, a move that would totally define his life. And it's where he'd eventually meet his future wife, Jerusha.
Burgess was actually the 7th of 8 kids, so this was a big family. And their personal story was just completely intertwined with the major events of the time. Just look at his older brother, Michael. He died at the Battle of Bennington. For the Metcalfs, the American Revolution wasn't some distant headline in a newspaper. It was a deep, personal tragedy that hit right at home.
Okay, so while we know a fair bit about Burgess's family, the woman he built his entire life with, Jerusha, well, she's more of a historical mystery. We know she was born around 1750, but the official records of her birth, even her family name, they're just gone. And that leaves us with a really fascinating puzzle.
And this is where it gets really cool. It's like a bit of historical detective work. Genealogists have this very plausible theory. You see, their youngest son was named Chandler Metcalf. And back then, it was a pretty common practice to use the mother's maiden name as a first name for a child. Now, it's not slam dunk proof, but it's a seriously tantalizing clue into who this foundational woman really was.
So after they got married, Burgess and Jerusha pushed even farther north, deeper into the real wilderness of New Hampshire. They weren't just moving to a new house, they were heading to a place called Piemont to build a home, a farm, and a future, all from the ground up.
This is the moment it all becomes real. August 1773. Burgess pays £70 for a plot of land. But this was so much more than just a transaction. This was a statement. This piece of earth was where the Metcalf family was going to plant its roots for generations to come. So what was life actually like in this new home? Well, the 1790 census gives us this incredible snapshot. We're talking 14 people living under one roof. That's Burgess and Jerusha and their 10 kids. Can you just imagine the controlled chaos, the constant energy, and the incredible amount of work it took to run a frontier household that was basically its own little village?
And let's be clear, this was a serious working farm. Tax records from about a decade later, in 1801, show us exactly what they had built with their own two hands. They had livestock, they had fields for crops, they had pastures. They weren't just scraping by on the edge of the wilderness. They were thriving. They were the very definition of that pioneer spirit that would build a nation. But just as the Metcalfs were busy building their farm, a new nation was being forged in the fire of revolution. And Burgess wasn't just going to be a farmer. He was about to become a soldier, fighting for America's independence. Think about the timing here for a second. It's September of 1775. That's just a few months after the first shots were fired at Lexington and Concord. Burgess didn't hesitate. With a young family and a brand new farm to build, he immediately answered the call, accepting a commission as an ensign in his local regiment. 2 years later, he finds himself in Saratoga, New York. Now, this isn't just another skirmish. This is the place where the entire course of the war is about to change. And Burgess Metcalf is right there, smack in the middle of it. And here's the kicker. He was there. He personally witnessed the surrender of the British General Burgoyne. This was a huge deal. This was the victory that convinced France to join the war on the American side, a massive, massive turning point. And this farmer from a tiny town in New Hampshire was there to see it all happen. So after the war, Burgess returned home. But his service, it wasn't over. He basically traded his military uniform for the day-to-day work of a different kind of building, community building. He became a pillar of the very town he helped settle. Just look at this record of civic duty.
surveyor of highways, juror, moderator of the town meetings, even a founding member of the local church. These weren't just fancy titles. This was the essential, hands-on work of turning a collection of scattered farms into a real, functioning town.
And as he and Jerusha got older, they made sure their life's work would be protected. They set up this really thoughtful legal arrangement to pass the farm on to their son, and I just love this bit of legal language. It guaranteed they could live out their days on their land without any let, hindrance, or molestation. It's a really touching, practical plan to secure both their future and their legacy.
Which brings us right back to this idea. What is a foundational figure? It's someone like Burgess, who fought a war and then came home to build a town. It's someone like Jerusha, who raised 10 children on the frontier. Their hard work, their service, their sheer endurance, that's the bedrock. That's what communities, and in the end, a nation, are built on.
See, the story of the Metcalfs isn't just about the past. It's a reminder that history is really made by ordinary people who do extraordinary things. And that leaves us with one final question to think about. Who are the pioneers, the builders, and the witnesses hiding in your own family tree?